Here with more on what's really causing these labor pains and what companies can do is Steve Odland, president and CEO of the Conference Board and a CNBC contributor, and Michael Strain is director of the Economic Policy Studies at the American Enterprise Institute. Michael, let me start with you. Why so many strikes right now? Obviously, each and potential ones, obviously each have their own particular causes and reasons, but is there a theme?
I think there is a common theme, or at least a common underlying cause. The combination of the pandemic ending, of all the fiscal policy support for the economy during the time of the pandemic, of really loose monetary policy, has led to a situation where economic demand just far outpaces economic supply. That has led to consumer price inflation, higher than we've seen in 4 decades. That itself is a big driver of this discontent. Everything's more expensive. Workers want higher salaries, higher wages in order to kind of keep their standard of living, in order to deal with all these high prices. In addition, that big demand boost that we have seen has led to a really tight labor market. We have had months where there are 2 job openings for every 1 unemployed worker. That gives workers a lot of bargaining power. They can tell people who want to hire them, businesses who want to hire them, they can walk into their boss's office and they can demand higher pay, and they know that they're in a stronger negotiating position because it's so much harder for managers to get workers. And so I think those are the 2 big things. Higher prices, people want higher salaries and higher wages to deal with them, and workers know that they're in the driver's seat in negotiations in a way that is typically not the case.
Yeah. Steve, let me get you to react to what Michael just laid out there. He gave a couple of reasons why there is this labor, let's call it discontent right now. Do you see it that way, and how do you react?
Yeah, I think Michael's absolutely correct. You're in a historic period here where you're at almost full employment, 10 million job openings, and wages have not been keeping up with the rising prices. Now, the Fed's moved pretty significantly, over 500 basis points, probably 1 or 2 more moves to happen. But the Conference Board's leading economic indicators are declining, and that's been going on now, but it's signaling a recession here. We're projecting a short and mild recession by the end of the year. So there is this window of time where employees have the power, but as the economy slows and as we potentially go into a recession, that should ease up, and that period of time where they have that power should go away. Now, there are some other things in here, like the pilot shortage. We're coming out of the pandemic where we shut everything down, people took retirements, and now we've got this historic shortage of pilots. So there are some policy issues that have been taken, as Michael said, that have led to unique things around these various industries.
So you, Steve, this is interesting to me because I've also been a little curious about the dynamic here. You think people are doing it as kind of a last opportunity before they sense the window closing if the economy and the labor market weaken?
I think that's right. That nobody knows for sure what's going to happen, but historically, as the economy has gone into recession, a lot of jobs have been lost. Now, this recession is projected to be mild and short, and the projected job losses are only, I say that with brackets, but only about 1 million jobs, which is a lot for those 1 million people that are impacted. But in other words, it should be weakening, and therefore the power of the employees is maximized right during this period before that slowdown happens.
So, Michael, would you agree with that? Because I guess the other way to look at it would be to say, no, that the labor market is stronger than expected, and the jobless claims data this morning, proved that, and workers sense that even more than maybe the macroeconomists.
I think that 2 things are happening. So I think if you kind of take a wide angle view and look at the economy over the last year, over the last 18 months, I think there's no question but that the labor market is slowing. There's no question but that we're seeing progress in consumer price inflation. I think if you look at the economy over the last 3 or 4 months, we haven't made a lot of progress in the labor market. Over the last 6 months, haven't made a lot of progress in inflation. And so a lot of it really just kind of depends on what time frame you're looking at. I continue to believe the economy is trending toward a recession. I think we're going to see a recession. And I think when that happens, when the unemployment rate starts to go up, then I think workers are going to lose a lot of bargaining power again, because they know they're hard to replace. They know that their manager is having a really hard time finding other workers, finding people to fill job vacancies.
In that sense, you sort of agree with Steve. I want to come back, Michael, and then maybe Steve, you can react as well. I was speaking to an executive who works for a major consumer products company last week, and she said, "Yeah, I hear these stories about there being 2 openings for every worker available, but not where I live, not in my industry, certainly not in the tech industry, where all they've been doing lately is laying people off." So I wonder if you scratch the surface of that widely cited statistic, which I'm sure is accurate, in other words, that there are 2 openings for every worker available, that if you dug down into the trench there, you might find something that that yields a different picture of the labor market. Michael, why don't you go first?
Well, I think that's right, and I think it depends on the industry you look at. So that statistic refers to the labor market as a whole, the economy as a whole. At large, yes. So the tech sector has been engaged in layoffs. I think the observation about the pilots is a good one. The issue there is in part strong demand on the part of households who want to get on an airplane and take a vacation. They're also having trouble because a whole bunch of their pilots took early retirement, and it's hard to train new pilots. And so, each of these situations has its own idiosyncrasies and its own specific circumstances, and different industries of the economy are different. A common theme is everything's more expensive when people go to the grocery store or when people want to go shopping, and workers are, apart from certain industries, workers just have a lot more bargaining power with managers and with prospective potential employers.
Steve, final thought from you, please.
Yeah, it depends on what happened in the recession by industry and by company. Those consumer products companies, the non-cyclical companies that didn't get impacted heavily, are pretty much more level. The ones that were shut down and impacted, of course, then had to come back. You see that in airlines. The tech industry is completely different. We had to go completely virtual. They ramped up. Amazon has nearly doubled the size of their business since the pre-pandemic period. Went too far, the curves come down. So you see these variations by industry. But the macro numbers suggest that the time is now for workers, and that will be different a year from now.
All right, Steve Odland, Michael Strain, thank you very much. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.